What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars, and welcome back to the grand finale of the Slave One Fett's Vet build series. Oh man, you know what's funny is this model has been done for a minute, and it's taken me a minute to actually, not a minute, it's taken about a month to actually get through all of the footage that I created right before Wonderfest. And you know what's funny? I really am enjoying kind of going back and watching this process. I'm seeing a couple things that I need to do better. Um, and honestly, there's this all this was recorded over the top of a couple of streams. And yeah, it was a little surreal hearing Steve, the Maker's Cave's voice on stream while doing this. And so this episode will always kind of have a special meaning to me, even though, because it is the grand finale, number one, but two, because I got to hear Steve's voice. I went ahead and took a little bit of that audio in a moment when I was talking with him, and I saved that, which is pretty cool. And getting to watch this process of building this again is also pretty cool. And like I said, I learned to do a few things a little bit better, and definitely would approach things a little bit different. But in this one, we conclude this series, my friends. We're going to be taking all of our sub-assemblies that we created in the last episode, and we're going to go ahead and get them all put together. Then at the very end, we get to do my very favorite thing, and do one of my little video things that I like to do at the end of each one of my series. So, without further ado, let's get to building, shall we? So here we are installing the lower blasters. Now, there is this little tube that sits in between that you're supposed to put the blasters into, and I tried. I really did. I tried to make it work, and it just didn't. I wound up taking the little tube out and found that the blasters will stick in by themselves, and the model doesn't need that little bit of support there at the bottom, especially with assembling the rear ramp coming up. So yeah, these blasters went in really well, and MPC, I see what you were trying to do, but don't worry about that tube, because it's not necessary. So here we're installing the rear ramp. Very, I would say a very simple process, and it was, but one of the areas that I didn't pay attention to during the weathering process, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what it was, but after I installed the rear ramp, I just stopped paying attention to it. It just wasn't a thing in my mind anymore. um, I think the judges at Wonderfest didn't notice that as well. And I'm not sure how. I think just because the rear of the ship where the ramp is installed, it's not very obvious what's going on. It's kind of hard to see it a little bit. So I feel like I kind of got away with one a little bit there. But I didn't, well, not but, I just didn't do any weathering. I didn't do any of I didn't do any panel wash. I didn't do anything. I didn't even clear it. It just went like this. I literally assembled this and then went. I did weathering. I did other things, and I still didn't do anything to this. So, uh, one of those mistakes on the models that I made that I'm obviously going to regret a little bit going forward, but it did turn out really well. And like I said in the previous episode, I really wish that I had thought about using the ramp as the battery compartment instead of the cockpit. So now the heavy part of the build begins. And getting this put on, I gotta say, getting these two pieces put on, I did a lot of work on all four of these pieces that we're currently going to be assembling here, and I feel like this was some of my best paint work that I've ever done, and it's also some of the best thought process into going into building a model that I've ever done as well. And so it was really, really satisfying getting this built. Now, the thing that I noticed is that this model specifically, I've built a couple MPC models now, both Star Wars kits. I don't know how old this mold is, and I probably should have taken a look to see, if this is an older kit, but it does check out. Um, but for an MPC kit, this one went together really, really well. there was a lot of flash on this model. Well, now that I recall, I did go back and kind of watch first episode to kind of see where it all began. And yeah, there was a lot of flash on this, but everything went together once you got the flash off really, really well. And all of my connections went together well. Like, they thought about how you do your connections, and there's like a little lip piece where you can connect the cockpit portion to the cowl, and it just man, worked out great. So here we are installing the lower cowl or the rear cowl, whatever you want to call it. Call it front, rear, upper, lower, doesn't matter. Much the same. This went together really, really well, really, really easy. And as I was saying, you can see that there's a raised edge along where we make our connection point. And this sat right in perfectly in place with the I guess the main body cockpit assembly, and it there was zero fitment issues. I didn't have to do any extra sanding. I was expecting to have to do some extra work, but I'd kind of gotten this right. Now, getting this assembled was not the easiest thing in the world. Getting it positioned into place properly. I thought that I could take the same approach and just kind of do a little bit of a bead of glue, and then kind of do a little bit of bead of glue, and then do a little bit of a bead of glue, and then, it's all assembled. No, that's not how this worked. For this one, we had to go ahead and get our glue completely over each one of the surfaces that we're going to be mounting to. And the super glue or CA applicator tip for the win here, because it was a very thin surface to put that on. And once you get it on, man, like it was satisfying. Like, it sticks into place, stays right where you want it to go, and the results after I've held it. Like, keep in mind, I will cut a lot of the holding. I held that for probably 2 minutes. But after everything went on, it just turned out really, really, really good. Like, there's Fett's Vet right there, the Slave One, man. Like, it most of the way together, and that looks really good. Oh, my friends, let's get part of the big part. Let's get part to the big part, I say. The things that happen when I am doing voiceover work, connecting the two halves. Now, getting this together here was very satisfying. Although it definitely did take some work. One of the things that I found during this build is that for as good as everything went together, it's not very clear in the instructions where everything mounts up, and the connection points are really vague. I think here there were 4 small tabs for the rear to connect to, and then you had the rounded part for where the pylons stick out to the side there, and that's it for connection points. There's no, like, everything else is kind of sits not flush in there, and so it was just a little frustrating. Now here, I forgot I cut this apart in here. Here, all I'm doing is using a little bit of CA to hold my wires down. And then I take some kicker. God, I hate the way that stuff smells. And I'll go ahead and just use that to secure my wires down. I could have used some, what do you call it, epoxy, or we could have even used some UV resin as well. But I just chose to use CA because I was lazy and it was right in front of me. So, the thing that I don't like about the wires that I chose to use for myself is they're nice and soft, supple, and every other dogtail or pigtail connection that you get, especially with this 9 volt, the wires are hard cased, and so it's a little bit, you get some weird connections, and I was kind of struggling there for a second to try to get the wires pulled through there and out straight. But yeah, as I was saying, there's only a couple of small connections there to mount it up to, and it's not the most obvious where they are. And it took a minute to really figure out like how I was going to do this. And unfortunately, where I put the CA here outside, I did put a ring of CA along the rounded part where the pylons go before doing this. But the 4 points where I am putting the CA right now, My big dumb head's in the way. Where I'm putting the CA now is it. That's it. There's no other CA points. There's no CA points, gluing points. And it proved to be detrimental on the way back. It made it to Wonderfest just fine. I did pack it in my carry-on. But on the way back, I had to, I bought so many things at Wonderfest that I needed to actually, check my bag so I can carry more things. And on the trip back, that part specifically broke off. I had to completely like reassemble the model after I got back. It wasn't too bad. It took about 5-6 minutes to get it all glued back up and everything like that. It wasn't a big deal, but definitely one of those things where it's like, they should have done a better job of getting all that connected up. So, or give us better connection points. But the 2 points are together, my friends. Now, the cool part here is we get to assemble the rear engines, and you know, this is probably, now I say the cool part, it is because it's a really cool part of the model. The engines and the bell housings here are one of the areas that I'm surprised I didn't get nicked for, and I may have actually, now that I think about it. From the judges at Wonderfest. Uh, as much as these were the bell housings that I used for the how to remove a paint tutorial that I did a couple months ago, and I did that because I needed to clean up the mounting points, and I kind of still did a poor job. I made some decisions when it came to painting this model, and painting in general, assembly in general is going to change. Like, I'm not going to be painting my parts and then assembling them. I'm going to assemble, then paint. I'm just going to have to figure out how to do that. But anyway, here, there were some seams that you could see. And unfortunately, I think that may have been one of the things, now I did get a merit award for the slave one. And, there are, I think it was 4 tiers. So you get merit, bronze, silver, and gold. And then above that, there are like things like best in show from individual model companies and stuff like that. And so, I wound up getting a merit award for this one. And I'm very proud of that, by the way, I have to say. And I'll talk about that in the outro. But, it's one of those things where I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to get a merit award, but I think this model could have done better if I had. Now, once again, I am not ruminating at this point. I'm very proud of the work that was done. I'm proud of the fact that I was able to get this model finished and get it to Wonderfest, get it back. The fact that I'm able to put this series together here for you guys, and have this finale and have fun with this model for the rest of the way. Once again, doesn't take away from anything. But I think that one of the things that I probably got docked on was this. The 2 things that are immediate to me. 3 things. The not weathering on the back where the ramp is. I did not weather up the cover for where Han is put when you can see him in carbonite. I also did not weather that piece, so it's just a pure straight silver piece, and that's not what it looked like. And the bell housings had seams on them. For as much as I tried to correct them, I should have painted it as one piece, sanded it as one piece, and then assembled later on. And so, yeah, just kind of one of those things. But, man, once this was installed, both these went in really, really well. I just had to basically, put them in a position where they would, the little red piece there that I painted had a little groove that you set it into, but you can see the seam right there. Like, you can see it. Like, that's the thing that you have to avoid at Wonderfest. But hey, I'm not going to ruminate too much on it. We're done. It's done. And it did turn out good. But there is that assembly all taken care of. And next up, we're going to have the most complicated part of the build, because I had already done this and I thought that I was done. And then, when you actually assemble the model, you find out that, hey, Jordan, you need to think this all the way through. And that's all I got to say about that. That's right. Installing the power supply. Now, in the episode, probably 2 episodes ago now, when I was installing the custom engine lighting and I was doing all of the power for this model, I said, like, isn't it amazing how the 9-volt battery fits in there perfectly? Well, it does if there's no canopy over the cockpit. So after some test fitting, um, I had to hack the model. At this point, I think this was the Sunday stream before Wonderfest when I was doing. No, this was the Friday stream. So 1 week before leaving for Wonderfest. Not even a full week, like 6 days. And I still needed to weather it. I still needed to do a bunch of stuff. And I'll just go ahead and admit what I edited out there was the fact that during the middle of my hacking of the model, uh, I may have just completely cut the wires and had to go ahead and resolder them together because, hey, it's me. And Jesus. Yeah, just kind of ridiculous. But yeah, once again, assembling the model, you find out like I probably just lost track, and that's totally fine. As I was going through, once you tried to put the canopy on, I think I have an ASMR moment here. Oh yeah, hold on. Oh yeah, look at that. So the cockpit, the canopy glass, by the way, turned out amazing. This is the first time I've ever done anything like that. All I did was tape the outside. I I cleaned it with anything that I could to get any fingerprints off, what have you. And then I just took the X1 from Tamiya, the gloss black, and I just went ahead and sprayed the inside of the canopy with like 3 coats, completely coat it, and it turned out glorious. That's how I'll approach doing any sort of canopy where I darken it again in the future. But I had to keep hacking, and that was one of the things. Like I said, in hindsight, I really wish that I had installed the battery pack down in the rear hatch or the rear ramp. Um, it would have prevented some issues actually at Wonderfest as well. Getting the 9-volt connection put in place. Like you can see what I'm doing there. I'm trying to like just create enough space for the battery to slide down just a little bit. I just wanted to slide down just a little bit, like just enough. But at Wonderfest, like what I ran into specifically was I couldn't go into the model room itself during the day and replace the battery without completely like manhandling the piece. And they really didn't want you messing with it. So the 1 9-volt battery, I have these Thunderbolt batteries. So you see them there. They look off brand or whatever, and they're off brand, but they're high milliamp. They have a lot of juice. The next day, I set up the model and plugged it in at I think like 8:30 in the morning on Saturday. And oh goodness me, it was still, you can see it flickering a little bit. The engines, you can still see them going at like 5, 6 o'clock the next day. Like, so these batteries were legit. But anyway, wow, I just went off on topic on talking about batteries. But yeah, it made it difficult for me to go in and swap the battery because this piece just was not like the most cooperative. It's perfectly fit, perfectly sized, but it just needed to be a little bit less on the inside. I could have approached this 2 different ways. I could have custom made this a little bit more, cut out the back, done some other things, or I could have done the ramp. Regardless, I should have made a more permanent connection with the battery pack housing because getting the connection on and off is kind of a pain in the butt. And if I had been thinking about lighting this model from the very beginning, I would have probably have used Han's body and the carbonite body, Han and carbonite, and created a bit of like a button, an on-off button, and that would have been much better. Now there you see that I finally got it down into its groove. And what I'm going to be doing here is taking a piece of double-sided tape and I just kind of flung the back in there. At this point, I'm just like, please just get done. I just want to be done. Please let me be done. So I just took a piece of double-sided tape that is currently still in there right now, actually, and used that to hold the battery in place, and it worked beautifully. It worked beautifully. Like it held everything. There were no issues, and yeah, there comes a moment here where I just kind of like stop and think about how awesome this is. It's kind of cool seeing the moment too. Like as I was editing it, I'm like, you know, this is pretty damn cool, and it was cool seeing me go through this. I did take another piece of double-sided tape, which wound up actually the double-sided tape here did not wind up being the final solution. It didn't want to stick to the paint very well, which is fine. I didn't want to ruin the paint, so I wound up taking a piece of Uhu Petifax and Petafix or whatever it is, and use that as like basically just some black tack and stuck it in place. But there it is, my friends. I love it. So it's time for the feature presentation, my little show, and I hope you guys enjoy. And then we're going to come back and talk at the end. This was a cool build. This was a lot of fun, and I was able to get this assembled completely, probably in about 3 hours after everything was said and done. So, my friends, enjoy the show. All right, my friends, there she is. It's been a month since Wonderfest. She's got a nice prominent spot on my shelf. I look at it often. Really proud of the work that I did here. It was really cool to build this model. I started way back in January, and it's kind of crazy to think that 7 months later, it's done. It's finished. It's light. It's lit up. It's blinking, they say. And a lot was learned during this whole series. I really learned to trust myself when it comes to painting. I allowed myself to be creative, and it showed through. I'm really proud of the fact that I got a merit award at Wonderfest. I got an award. You could say I'm a minor award-winning YouTube modeler. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But I was able to build this, quickly put it together there in the end. After months and months and months of preparation, I imagine that a lot of my models aren't going to take nearly as long as they have been to build because I build them in segments prior to this. And so, as we approach the next phase of our model building life, I just like to stop and say thank you to all of you who've come along for the ride, watched every one of these episodes. I'm really grateful for all the tips and tricks and all the pointers and all the support and love that I've gotten from this build series. And I'm looking forward to finishing up the Razor Crest. And we have an episode of that coming up later this week. And that is also going to get a lot of my undivided attention for the next little while, because that model deserves it as well. And if it turns out anything like this one did, I think that we're going to be in for a pretty special treat for that one. So, with all that said, my friends, there she is. Started back in January. Fett's complete. The Slave One from Empire Strikes Back, Mandalorian, and the Book of Boba Fett is complete. And it was a fun build. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for coming along for the ride. Thanks for watching this episode. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, which I think is pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember, my friends, that this is the way.